doing? Okay, so I'm back. This time we're going to be wrapping up thoughts from last stream. We're also going to be so last stream I wanted to watch this what was it called, a town hall that Brittany Jones had done video, but it was too long. I had to go to a meeting and work. And so yeah, so we're gonna do that now. Also, I'm cooking dinner right now, so I will be taking a couple of breaks to be cooking. Um, yeah, the white side in me is coming out. I'm making a fucking casserole. Okay, don't look at me like that. Um, but anyway, so I'm doing a chicken broccoli rice and cheese casserole. Um, but some would say I add too much cheese. I say it's just the right amount. Who knows? It ain't easy being cheesy. Um, so yeah, before I get into everything, I just want to say something else that came across my mind. I feel like Brittany Jones acts as if, like, if I criticize her campaign, she thinks I'm somehow against her, no matter how much work I did try to do in her benefit. But she doesn't see how using her identity for this political platform has caused others to question not only her Potomac identity, but all Patawomecks in general, right? As we've covered previously. And she doesn't understand how that impacts the tribe, particularly at a time when public opinion really matters with our federal recognition in the air. And they've been using public opinion, where people not thinking we are real, as a reason to take away Patawomec land. And she doesn't see how feeding into that narrative is harmful. And so that's another thing I think she and I had a big disagreement on, as you can see in the text messages about the campaign, because um, it's like, for me, it's like I felt like it was more important to not just stand by why people are saying these things, but she would rather just allow people to say those things, because she was more concerned with how she looked. And yeah. Oh, apologies. Cousin just messaged me. Oh, okay, that's interesting. All right, I'm gonna have to respond to that later. I hope that doesn't pop up again. Yeah. Okay, sorry. Um. Anyway, fucking, I'm gonna roll my intro. We're gonna get right on into everything. Oh, I want to address who is Hannah Shooting Bear, because Brittany had mentioned her, and then I also want to play some other clips that Brittany had made about her political position as well before we get into the roundtable reaction. So we'll be doing all of that. Is it roundtable? No, it was a town hall. Whatever the fuck it's called. Yeah, whatever. Okay.
Winda boneta baba, descendants of one Seneca. Seneca Maca is the land of the Powhatan.
Okay, so I am going to begin by talking about Hannah Shooting Bear. I do not know who Hannah Shooting Bear is. I've never had the potential pleasure of meeting her. I only say potential because I don't know her, and the only reason I said potential is because of my recent negative interactions with Brittany Jones. So, and why am I bringing up Hannah's Shooting Bear with relation to Brittany Jones? I just want to replay something real quick here.
In time, I volunteer for Indigenous now, and Hannah Shooting Bear has helped guide me a lot in the proper way to reconnect as an adult, and she's given me a lot of advice, and she gives me a lot of advice through the campaign as well.
Okay, so that's why I want to talk to Hannah Shooting Bear. Hannah Shooting Bear, this message is for you. Have you really actually taught Brittany Jones everything that she has been saying in my streams? because I find it extremely disrespectful. If you are teaching her that it's okay for her to represent Indigenous people when she's not connected to her own community, if you're not teaching her to get permission from the chiefs and the elders before speaking on the Patawomecks name in the news when she doesn't even know how to say Patawomecks right, if you're not teaching her to go learn these things first, I do blame you for that. If, like she said, you're the one who's teaching her and advising her on her campaign and everything, I would love you to watch my videos and know that I do place blame on you for it. If that's not your teachings, if these are not your teachings and she's blaming you for something you didn't, no, this is not how you showed her to be. She's doing this anyway and now saying these are your teachings, then I feel like in my spirit, you need to speak out against this. You need to talk to her. You need to try and guide her to like stop fucking bringing your name into this shit then, because it doesn't like, it's making it look as if you're the one who taught her it's okay to be this way. You know? Like, I feel like, my message to Hannah, like, I don't know you, but I think that if these are your teachings, I hope you reflect on the impact your teachings have to other people, and maybe reserve your teachings for people in your own tribal community so it doesn't conflict with another tribe with what would go against our ways. For someone who's trying to reconnect somewhere else, maybe that would be best advisable, because perhaps what I have problems with wouldn't be problems in your community. But yeah, like for me, it's like I just don't understand why you would be out there encouraging people who just found out they were Native, who were not raised Native, to, in my opinion, kind of culturally appropriate and to misuse land back movement and the MMIW movement in this way, in my opinion. I don't understand it. So I don't know who Hannah Shooting Bear is. I don't know what people think about her. What I did find online, is like Brittany Jones was saying, she is the founder of Indigenous Now, which is an Indigenous nonprofit. And when you look at her online, you can see that she is involved with leading MMIW events in Oregon and Portland areas. When you look her up online, so those search results are here. There's not too much in there. Some of it, is just about a bunch of other shit, because Hannah Shooting Bear as broad search terms are going to give you a lot of random shit. But you can find a little bit about her in there and see that she has done a lot of work for MMIW. So I do wonder, like, is Brittany Jones trying to associate with her, and she actually may not, maybe she's inspirational to Brittany because she could be an inspirational person, but what if she actually has not tried to mentor Brittany? She's just maybe been an inspiration to her, and Brittany is saying that she's a mentor when those are not her teachings and she hasn't mentored her. I wouldn't be surprised if that were true. But if it is true that Hannah Shooting Bear is her mentor, I really do respect all of the work Hannah has done on MMIW, and I respect Hannah so much for all of that. I am so impressed. But I am very concerned with the teachings that have been passed to Brittany Jones from you, if that is the truth. So I would love to reflect more on that. Because I feel like that did cause direct harm to the Patawomecks tribe, in my opinion, based on as we've covered before. So yeah, I don't know, I just wanted to throw that out there. So next up, let's move on a little more. Fucking with Brittany, she has made some statements, and there have been different statements made about her about which party she associates with. So Lookout Eugene, Oregon had said that she is in the Democratic primaries to challenge Oregon Governor Tina Kotek, right? And also, mind you guys, don't forget down here with the fry bread comments where I keep throwing fry bread in Brittany's face in relation to Native identity as well. That is because she did try to market her Raven Landing thing as an Indigenous nonprofit restaurant. Um, and so that's, and claiming that they're gonna sell fry bread burgers on the menu, you know. So like things like that. That's why I also keep bringing up fry bread in relation to Native identity with her. So also here we have where the Oregon Coast Explored Post has reiterated, mind you guys, that whenever she was running for president, she said, I am running in the 2024 presidential elections for the United States. After much deliberation, I have decided to run as an unaffiliated candidate, which is an independent candidate. I cannot, in good conscience, play into the rigged two-party system that our government has become today. And then this is how she raised $57,000 in donations as well through that campaign fund. Where she's claiming Indigenous identity the whole time as well, mind you guys. So, yeah, so here she's running unaffiliated, right? And then I just want to lead here. Let me play something for you guys. Hold on.
Governor of Oregon against Tina Kotek on the Democratic primary, and we are looking for volunteers.
Okay, so here we go. Democratic. All right, Democratic right here. Okay, so now I want you to see Brittany had posted in response to another problematic post about Obama. Brittany had said, I wasn't a Democrat then and only registered as a Democrat to win in Oregon. I prefer to be unaffiliated. Both parties are bad news. The higher you go. And someone said, so you are running under false pretenses. How can anyone trust you? And then here is something else she said. Mind you guys?
I am campaigning for the primaries, you guys. I am a registered Democrat. If you are not a registered Democrat, you don't get to vote for me in May. You cannot vote for me in May.
So, here we go. Registered Democrat. All right. Okay. So, previously, you know, she said she was running independent because the Democrats are a rigged two-party system. And, yeah, she didn't want to be part of the Democrats. Now she's saying she's registered Democrat. Okay. And here, let's see, hold on.
Restaurant under the nonprofit name of Raven's Landing. But according to public record, back on November 21st, Lane County Public Health issued a notice to Jones to stop selling food without a license. Jones is also running for governor under the Democratic Party, and according to court documents, Jones is ordered to vacate the premises by midnight December 28th.
So here we go. We see she's reported again to be Democratic here. Whenever she was running for candidate here, Democratic primary for her candidacy here. And then here we see she put the Republicans have been the worst. And independents too. So why did you run for president unaffiliated, which is basically the same as independent? And now that you are running Democratic, you're saying, oh, independents are the worst. But when you were running independent, you said Democrats were part of a rigged two-party system. So a lot of people, you know, think that was hypocritical of her. And then we're going to just replay my other post on this real quick for just a snippet. And will scream as a fabricated victim to the local authorities. Someone else said she claimed to be independent from either side while also stating that her ideals align with the left, all on the same post. She says that she only switched to Democrat because she couldn't get votes as a third-party candidate. But again, she admits that her ideals already match the left. Definitely a scammer trying to ride both sides of the fence to gain votes. She said, that's right, I forgot. Someone else said, that's right, I forgot about all that craziness too. She was telling everyone in Eugene she bought some rundown property on Highway 99 and was turning into a tribal restaurant thing and was looking for other food carts too. All the while squatting and scamming the owner of the gingerbread house. It was a whole situation here last fall. Such disgraceful behavior. I just saw that she was also selling the food without a license. I hope anyone who's considering voting for her sees how corrupt she is. Someone said, did she delete her own post from yesterday? Someone else said, probably. Also, I'm not 100% sure, but I thought candidates legally can't block people. She's just... Okay, so then it goes into other stuff. But from there, y'all can see you know what I'm saying, public opinion related to the statement she makes about the two-party system, and her going back and forth between running Democrat versus independent or unaffiliated, however you want to word it. I think that has bitten her in the ass, and it would be one thing to just do it in general, but it's the specific statements she made instead of articulating the social issues behind the two-party system and just basically being out here, well, you all suck ass. As someone who tells everybody, hey, fuck you all suck ass all the time, I can promise you, people do not like that. You know what I mean? Just throwing that out there. I know people don't like it because I am told that often. Because I say that shit often. But, you know, so I think that's going to bite her in the ass, the flip-floppiness there. And I think part of, you know, things like that are why people don't perceive her as genuine. Because when you literally say, I'm going to go for whatever party gets me a win, some people might see that genuine in terms of, well, at least you admitted it. But some people will not see that as genuine in terms of, well, okay, well, which one do you actually have value alignment with then? And I think that's another reason that could be said she could be perceived as polarizing. Let me check on, so right now I'm actively cooking. I might be taking a couple of breaks. Hold on. Let me see here. Oh, my timer has, let me check. Oh, that's got 1 minute left. Okay, so, all right, here's what I'm gonna go ahead and do. I'm gonna go ahead and take this break. I'm gonna take a break real quick. I'm cooking right now. I might need to take a couple of more breaks while I cook, but I just need to go shred some chicken and put my food together, kind of combine everything into a baking dish and then put it in the oven. And then I'm gonna be right back. And once it's in the oven, it's gonna be up in there for almost an hour. And so, you know, we'll have a good bit before I have to take another break. But yeah, I'm going to take a break right now and go do my food situation, and then we'll come back, and when I get back, we're gonna start doing the town hall reaction. So yeah, I appreciate you, and thank you for being here. Okay, sorry about that. Now let's get into I forgot to sneeze or cough. Hold on. I don't know what the fuck my body's doing right now. Okay. Now we're gonna get into this town hall reaction. I am going to play this also sped up. We're definitely gonna start at 1 point. We'll try that 1.75 and see if we need to go down. But yeah, this video is 1 hour and 21 minutes. So I expect this to probably be here like 3 hours. But yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and get it going. It is playing, they're just not saying anything. Okay, I sped up. Let's see. Looks like they're about to come on. Okay, here we go.
Hello, welcome in everybody. Let's go ahead and tap the screen, share the live, so we can go ahead and get started, get us out on FYP. Repost the live, let me do all the things I'm telling you guys to do. Repost the live, share the live, send your daily heart me's, tap it up, tap it up, tap it up. I am going to get my background together. Let's see. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, there we go. Yeah. My background didn't save. Just say background. That's what I'm looking for. But I don't see it. Oh no, now it's frozen. Hold on. Okay, there we go. Yes, okay, the candidate's here. Yes, I'll bring you up in 1 second. If you want to just go ahead and share out the live to your followers so they can come on in as we are about to get started on this town hall. All right, let's see. Let's see if my background now works. It still did not save. No, you know, it's fine. We'll work with the old one. That's fine. All right. Yes, I know, but it won't save for me. Well, I have a green shirt on, so we'll just go with that. All right, we only have 17 likes. Let's go ahead and tap it up. And let me continue to share it out. Yes, that's the one I saved it already. I don't know. My phone isn't saving the background. I don't know. It's fine. It's fine. Oh, thank you. All right, so I'm going to bring the candidate up. I sent an invite to the candidate. Welcome in, guys. Welcome in. Miss Jones, hi.
Hello. Trying to figure out, because it's been a while since I've been a guest on.
I know you saw me trying to get my background together.
I just barely got home. I had no time to get ready, and I'm just like, my daughter had an impromptu play date after school.
Oh. You know what, that's fine. I will talk to the people as you get ready. Welcome in. Today we are talking to Miss Brittany Jones. She is running for governor of Oregon. Governor. That's a big role. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I ran for president last time.
Wow. We're gonna have to talk about that. That's interesting. How did that go?
Ooh, not that one. I was looking for.
And mind you guys, I'm not the only one who thinks she's not going about that in the right way. Like, you need to start small and work your way up. I think because when you start small and work your way up, there's nothing wrong with fucking some shit up, honestly, at a city level, council level. Like, you can get away with doing some more fuck ups, and it really doesn't impact people the same way as when you're governor or president and things like that. Like, I think she needs to have the training if she wants these higher roles. What I do not understand is why she wants the label of higher authority without the work to show leadership, you know?
A nice filter that will not make me look fake. Just move away my tiredness. You want to say hi?
Oh.
I'm not on the camera yet. Hold on. I'll let you say hi quick, and then you got to get off the camera because TikTok doesn't like kids on my account anyways.
Yeah.
That's a big beetle.
How do they feel about you running for governor? How do kids feel? Excited?
My daughter is excited about it. She tells everybody, like today, she's like,
my mom is running for governor.
Aw.
She's like, my mom runs for governor, and I'm like,
Hi.
Hi. So cute. All right.
So then my oldest.
And mind you guys, I am against like the whole concept of kids being used in this way for social media and political platforms and stuff. I see how it's normalized in society and why so many people do it because it's normal to them. It's just not something I would do myself, but you know, it's not me. But so typically, I do try to make a lot of efforts not to put kids on here. In this case, I didn't watch this before, so I didn't realize she'd be here. But we're just gonna let it play and see what happens.
Decide he doesn't think I'm gonna win.
Oh no.
He's like, I know. It's like, just drop out and get a job, normal job. And I'm like, well, I'm fighting for your future too by doing this. And, oops.
Moral support. Mom needs the moral support.
Right.
Honestly, I think that kid is smart. Just drop out and get a normal job. That is exactly what she needs to do. That kid is smart, and she needs to listen to him.
Okay, so just let me know when you're ready to start. All right, welcome in, guys. Let's go ahead and keep tapping, reposting. We're only at 17 likes, so that means people are not liking the screen. Tap the screen, tap, tap, tap. That helps us get an FYP so people can hear about Brittany and what she wants to do for Oregon as governor. That's a big role, you know, pretty much the head of the state. So we need people in here to listen to her plans and what she has going on for Oregon. All right. Yes. Okay, we're doing good on the shares, 59 shares. Thank you guys for sharing. Make sure you put it on your story and all of the things. All right, Brittany, are you ready?
Yes, I am ready. I'm just trying to figure out. There we go. I tap right there. I was trying to figure out where to tap.
No, you're fine. All right. So I want to welcome everybody in. Welcome to OVC Our Vote Counts TikTok Live Town Hall. And today we are here with Brittany Jones, who is running for governor of Oregon. First, I want to just tell you who we are, who is Our Vote Counts. Our Vote Counts is a nonpartisan coalition of citizens from diverse states and backgrounds united by a shared commitment to empowering voters, promoting candidates who stand for integrity, inclusion, and accountability in the upcoming elections. Formed by a collective of educators, veterans, small business owners, students, and community activists, Our Vote Counts represents the strength of unity across geography, race, and ideology.
I don't know if Brittany is the right person to represent integrity and accountability because I don't believe she has integrity or takes accountability. But that's me personally. I do believe she makes statements that she knows are misleading at this point in time because she said that she wouldn't say certain things publicly because she's smarter than that, but yet she does still, in my opinion, make statements that I believe leads people to believe she has more of a connection than she actually does have, in my opinion.
Our stories are different. Our mission is the same, to ensure that every voice is heard and every vote truly counts. Through voter education, candidate outreach, and community engagement, we support leaders who are ready to serve the people, not special interests. By working across state lines and elevating local and national issues, we aim to increase voter turnout, inform public dialogue, and build momentum for lasting change. Our Vote Counts is more than a name. It's a promise, a movement, and a rallying cry for democracy. Together, we are shaping the future, one informed vote at a time. And that's who we are, Our Vote Counts. And again, I want to tell you guys we are joined by Brittany Jones. She is running for governor of Oregon, and we'll be talking about her background, her vision for her district, and of course, taking your questions live. So Brittany, I'm just going to give you a little rundown of how we do it. There's about 5 categories that we do, and then in between each category is what we do call a rapid fire. The first one is a little bit more political, and then the second one is like fun rapid fire. All right, are you ready? Okay, so we're going to open with an icebreaker. So before we get really started, it is Women's History Month. So if you can give me one woman that has inspired you and why.
Oh, that's an easy one. My Aunt Rachel, she stepped in when I was growing up. She's like the Oprah of this area. She's like, takes care of everybody. And like any kid, she has had a daycare since I can remember. I was in the daycare and then I helped at the daycare. And then I, lived with her from when I was 15 and on. And she's just the rock for the family. She's the one that everybody goes to. And she never tells me I can't do something. She'll tell me something's gonna be hard, but she never tells me I can't do it. And then she's always there. Even if you mess up, you can go talk to her. She's not gonna be like, I told you so. Yeah. She lets you vent to her, and then like she's there for everybody. And I just love her to death. She's like a second mom to me.
That's sweet. I love that. So let's go into why you're running.
I thought she said she was raised in the Indigenous community. I don't know, now she's saying that it was her Aunt Rachel. So, but her Aunt Rachel, that's on her dad's side. Isn't that the one with Mexican heritage?
For governor. So if you just want to give us a little bit of background about yourself and then why you decided to run for governor of Oregon.
I am a veteran, a small business owner, and a political activist. I started seeing the decline and the truth about the parties in this country a few years ago. And when Trump was first elected, I was like, if he can get into office, then so can I. And I wasn't old enough, but I timed it to run for president as soon as so that if I was elected, I'd be 35.
So, yeah, again, mind you guys, if Trump was your political awakening and you're a millennial and you're older than me, I see you as not being impacted by politics before then. And I think that would be evidence of benefiting from white privilege and not having lived experience as an Indigenous person. And in terms of, if Trump can be president, so can I. Nah, man. If that dipshit is president, I sure as hell shouldn't be president. We do not need to be lowering standards. I know that I'm too batshit crazy to realistically lead people in that way. People need to have some fucking self-awareness. Like, this is wild.
So I actually started running for president before I was 35, and that was last election. I would have been 35, like right before the election deadline. And I just really dove headfirst into politics back then, and because I was campaigning for like 2 years, and also reconnecting to my Indigenous heritage, and just everything all at once. The more involved I got in politics, the more involved.
Reconnecting to Indigenous heritage. Okay. She's made various statements about that. She just said she's been doing that the last 2 years. Previously, she said she did it for 5 years. Which is it? I don't know. And you could say, well, if you did it for 5 years, then you had to have done it for last 2 because last 2 would be part of last 5, right? But for me, in my head, it's like, if you didn't get your lineage confirmed until 2023, it's not possible for you to have reconnected before then. So, but I just don't feel that that should be a talking point for your governor campaign, and I'm not going to keep spiraling over it, but I just think it's a form of exploitation because you are a descendant and you don't have an actual connection to the community, and you're not able to represent a lived experience on the topic. So I don't know, I find it problematic.
I got with our communities, the more I saw that needed to be fixed outside of the regular life of a poverty citizen, that you experience the system failing you and you know how it can be fixed and you're wondering why haven't they fixed it yet, why haven't they done this yet. And so I'm running on the basic principle that it's failing us and I know how it can be fixed because I've experienced the failure. So I'm going to get in there and I'm going to do the job they're supposed to be doing. I'm not going to sell out to corporations. I'm not going to, I don't take big corporate money. I don't take APAC money or super PAC money. I'm a grassroots candidate. I refuse to be bought and sold. I refuse to be a fake politician. And I think we just need.
I wonder if she doesn't take those types of funds or if she just hasn't been able to raise those types of funds before. Because if she were offered, would she take it? That would be a different story. Because it's really hard for me to believe. Like, I am way more comfortable taking some big ass corporation's money than the individual, right? Because a big ass corporation, fuck you and your money. I don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? But when it comes to the individual, that's way more stressful because that's their whole life earning. You know what I mean? But corporations are greedy. I don't know. I don't know if I'm making sense. So it's like, yeah, let's take corporate money. Doesn't mean they have to do what the fuck they want. You can take their fucking money anyway. That they may not donate to you again next year, but fuck it. Like, take their fucking money. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe I'm weird for thinking that. But then again, it's also about value alignment. So it's like, yeah, certain corporations I would not take money from, but not necessarily every single corporation, right? Like, not every corporation is a bad corporation.
Wipe the slate clean and get working class poverty level citizens into these offices. And so I'm going full throttle for that.
Absolutely. I've heard that, because we've done so many town halls now, I've heard that same sentiment that they want somebody in there that really understands the people, that's not bought by corporations, and really wants to do the work for the citizens of their area. So I feel like that's a sentiment for a lot of people who are running grassroots campaigns right now. So I think you'll be in good company once, you become governor of Oregon. So let's go ahead and jump into our first topic. So we're first going to talk about education. Oregon's graduation rate is about 81 to 82%. What policies do you have to try to raise your graduation rates to 90% statewide?
So Oregon is a beautiful state, Joni. We'll welcome you. Don't listen to people that are telling you not to move here. Come here. We're a beautiful state. For education, I have quite a few plans. There's 2 grants that I want to initiate. One is the diversity in education grant. So in a lot of our small towns, like Oregon is not a diverse state. It's become more diverse over time, but it's not a really diverse state. And so as these new students and new families are moving in, they're not being represented in our teachers and our faculty and our staff. And so I think it would be wonderful to have incentive for these communities that, Oregon had sundown towns. There's still a lot of racism out here. And having communities where they're like, oh, hey, we can get a grant for our school if we have a diverse staff, we maintain a diverse staff, whether that's gender identity, the race of the teachers, and the student body as well. It's not, don't make it harder for somebody from a equity priority community to join your school. Don't push them out of town, don't push them out of your school. So if you maintain a diverse student body and staff body, then you'd be able to get the grant to help fund your school and your programs. And then there's another grant that
hit the wrong button. My bad, wrong button. Basically the fucking, what I don't understand here with her diversity argument, like theoretical concept, yes, I believe that there should be diversity and representation in education, etc. I'm not arguing against that. What I'm saying though is, in a state where 70% of the population is white, if you have an education disparity crisis, if you're saying that the solution is for more diversity in the education, I think that needs to be connected to discussing if there is more educational issues in marginalized communities as well, to discuss the connection of why that diversity in the education would be relevant to helping alleviate the education issue, right, with graduation rates. But if, for example, I'm talking about shit I just read randomly online. I'm not citing any source right now because I'd have to go look for one. I'm not looking for one. I'm just telling you what I've seen before. I've read previously that black women, for example, are some of the most educated community members we have right now, where they go and get a lot of higher degrees in education, for example. So, what if it is possible that the lower education and graduation rate applies, to the 70% white population over other marginalized community members. That could be possible because, and so it is true that sometimes being marginalized means you have less opportunities to get a successful education, but sometimes part of a lot of communities that are marginalized, it is part of the cultural upbringing to go get educated. And so, I think she should be pulling up the stats to explain her logic with that answer so people can understand why the resources should be allocated that way. But on concept, if that does solve the problem, I would support it. But I just don't know because she didn't provide the full information yet if she does.
Is for arts and education, because we have so many electives being canceled and so many classes just going away, and then our class sizes are getting bigger because there's no more variety and less teachers and less subjects. I think bringing back those subjects and those electives can also help people finish out and graduate, because if you take the fun out of learning, you're not going to want to stay and learn. So bringing those back so people can experience, maybe learn different hobbies, different things that they would want to do when they do graduate. And then we just had Springfield, Oregon just laid off over 20 teachers.
Wow.
For the district because the union didn't submit a bid, or they didn't include housing costs in their negotiations, like the cost of housing. I'm like, do you think these teachers are living for free? That you should, like, that should be common sense to pay. It's going to cost money to live here, so we should pay them what they can, like, so that they can be able to afford to live here and teach the students. And the administrators no administrators got cut. No, like, office, no board members got cut. They took it out on the teachers. And we already have huge class sizes. We already have less electives, and the students are suffering because of it. So we need to bring back smaller class sizes, more teachers, mental health in every single school, and diversity and arts and electives back.
Absolutely. As you already said, Oregon spends about $14,000 per student annually. How would you ensure equitable funding between the urban and rural districts?
I think that's one of the reasons why people argue over school choice, is being able to move your student out of a certain district so you can get to a school with better funding. I think we have the funding. We're going to audit. If I'm elected, I'm going to audit every single department and find out where the money is going and how it's being used, to see how we can divert it back so that we can have equal funding. Because no matter where you live, no matter where you're raising your kids, they deserve a good education, a solid education. They shouldn't have to move or go out of the district to be able to access that. So I think it's really getting down to the bottom of the budget issues and seeing where that money is actually being spent. Because we also have a Mary Jane tax here, and I'm censoring myself for TikTok.
Yeah. I was like, what's she saying? Then I was like, okay, yeah.
And so, but nobody really knows where that money went. They haven't been transparent with how it's been spent, and it's supposed to be used for these services. So we shouldn't be laying off teachers. We shouldn't be having schools struggling to fund anything. Every single child should be able to have equal access to education, regardless of where they are.
Absolutely. You talked about the teachers. Do you have any, I don't know if Oregon has a teacher shortage, but you said they laid off some. So would you have any plans to have any type of incentive for people to move to Oregon to maybe become teachers, maybe a teacher forgiveness loan program, or something to incentivize more teachers so you have more teachers and smaller classroom sizes?
I think with them laying off teachers, we have the teachers here. They're just not using the funding to hire them.
Okay.
I support free education all the way through college. That's one of the huge things I support, because an educated population is a strong population, and being able to have that access to education is important. And we do need those teachers to be able to stick around and be able to have their jobs and have more teachers. If people want to move out of state, move into Oregon to be able to teach here, then I don't see anything wrong with that at all.
Okay, thank you. So you would support state, maybe community college being free for people in Oregon? Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Another question for us is education. Nearly 40% of Oregon's fourth graders are not at reading level. What literacy incentives would you prioritize?
I actually have not really sat down and thought about that issue. I was a late reader, and once I started reading, I just went with it. My daughter's a late reader. It really comes between, having parent and teacher cooperation, I think, just to really get those kids working on it at home as much as possible, even though I don't really support homework, but reading is fundamental, and it's important that our kids can read.
Did she just say she's a late reader? She doesn't support homework. No wonder she can't read. The fuck? Okay. Theoretically, I think there's a lot of criticisms that can be valid with the concept of homework, but on another level, whenever the point of homework when it comes to such items like reading, like, some things the teachers can't do everything. The parents have to take an active part in the child's education. And I think a lot of parents, the reason they don't like homework is because they don't want to have to actively educate because they think it's the teacher's job and their job is something else, you know, or something. I don't know. It's one thing, it's like, you know, there's a lot of issues with the institutionalization of the school system and colonialism and all of that, and how, like, sometimes, depending on the teacher, some students or the class can get so much homework they don't have the ability to have a good quality of life because all they can do is work. You know, like I've seen that. So I understand criticizing that, but just the concept of should homework exist or not, I think there needs to be some homework because there needs to be a way for parents to make sure they're having an active participation in the child's learning. And I think that's also a way for parents to review what is their child being educated on and review the material. It's the time for the parent to get to understand what is their child learning. And I think that's really important, particularly when it comes to history and social issues. Yeah, in my opinion. Um, I think there should be shorter school. I think the school hours should be different and slightly shorter to accommodate some of that time frame. But also, it's like, why do we have school at different times and then most people are expected to work 8 or 9 to 5? You know, um, I think the traditional office job and environment should be more amenable to hours which support parents in their child's education hours, or vice versa, where we have institutions create systems where the school hours match the average parent hours of a region or something like that. Like, there's got to be a way, you know, to make it easier. Because what the fuck is this society, right?
I didn't even know that was a statistic that was being tracked, so I'm gonna have to look into that.
Okay. If anybody in the chat has a question, go ahead and put it in the chat, or you can request up to ask Ms. Jones any questions as far as education. Okay, and that's exactly what we're moving into. So thank you, single payer. My next topic was healthcare, so this is great. They said, do you support single payer healthcare?
I support universal healthcare, single payer healthcare, anything that makes it more accessible for people to get healthcare. And I know people argue that the wait times will be extremely long, but I already have to wait 6 months to see my PCP. I already have to wait 6 months for an intake appointment for my dentist. There's already the long wait time. People are dying in emergency rooms because their appendix burst, because they're not being seen within a what's that word? Within a quick time frame, right? So hey Vesper, the wait times are already extremely long. So we should have it free. We should have access to healthcare. And when I say healthcare, even transgender healthcare, pro-choice, reproductive healthcare, all of that needs to be available for our communities.
Absolutely. So Oregon's Medicare program covers roughly 1.4 million residents. How would you maintain this coverage while controlling costs?
Yeah, sit.
Okay. Shh. Sorry, just playing with the dog. So that's part of where the audit comes in as well. We have the money.
I don't think the kid should have to be shushed just because she's on a live stream. I honestly think that's fucked up. Like, I don't like seeing that. I feel like this whole thing where parents act like, oh, what they need to do is more important than what their kids should be doing for their future. I think that's just extremely selfish and I don't like it. But that's just me personally. Like, if she's gonna fucking be in the same room, just be like, yeah, that's it. Fuck it. My kid's here, get the fuck over it, is how I would be. Like, honestly, I don't think the kid should have to be shushed so your live stream can be more quiet. Who gives a fuck if she's in the background? People are on these fucking live streams watching fucking TV with the goddamn TV in the background. Like, you go to a fucking different room, bitch. Like, I don't understand this whole, like, okay, I'm gonna live stream and now nobody else in the house can say shit. Nah, fuck that. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I understand where if I'm live streaming and someone wants my attention, I might be like, hold on, let me finish this one fucking thing, and then you're gonna have my undivided attention unless it's emergency. Because it's like, if I'm not getting the rest of my thought out, I won't be able to fucking focus on you anyway. So just hold on, let me finish this, and then I'm gonna focus on you. You know what I mean? Like, I can understand that, but it's like this whole, like, these, where she's getting on these, for these interviews with her kid there, but then, you know, like, silencing the kid is a trigger for me. I don't like seeing that, and I don't like seeing that.
But we keep doing corporate tax cuts. Our current governor just said in an article that, like, for data centers, that our environment cannot sustain data centers, but she still supports tax cuts for those data centers. And we need to stop doing tax cuts for corporations and make them pay their fair share. And that money could help fund the medical health care that we need. I'm also a huge proponent or supporter of legalizing and regulating substances, so that, and that way there's going to be safe use centers, less addiction rates, less overdose deaths, less STI and STD spreads, and more services available without the criminalization of it. And the taxes from those sales, with it being regulated, could actually help fund healthcare as well for everybody.
Absolutely. And you want to say,
I was trying to think
yeah,
of
I was about to say the same thing, unaliving, yeah. Thank you, Joni. The mods are on it in the chat. So rural Oregon faces a shortage of physicians and mental health providers. What incentives would you introduce to encourage more doctors to come and stay in your state?
So this one is one of the things I've talked about quite frequently. My oldest son has attenuated psychosis syndrome. He started having hallucinations when he was 5, at least being able to tell me about them. But there was only one child psychologist in our area that could see him and attempt to diagnose him, and they refused to. They said that it's extremely rare for it to happen at 5 years old, so we're not going to diagnose.
Okay, I do not believe she should be disclosing her kid's medical diagnosis online and all of that either. I don't agree with that. The kid can't consent to that. I don't believe it should be used for her political campaign. I don't agree with this personally at all. And I have said before, you can criticize a lot about her, but she's a good parent, and I don't believe people should be bringing kids into these conversations that aren't about the kids and everything. And to a point, I do stand by that. Anything that isn't just already public, I don't think people should be mentioning, people should be bringing up. None of that, leave them out. They have nothing to do with it. It's something I still stand behind. But I do also think when she is showing her kids online, when she's filming this and you can see how she's engaging with her kids online, people are going to have opinions about that, and I think people have the right to that. So to that extent, I do think that it is okay to have commentary on what the fuck you're seeing in front of you, because she shouldn't be posting it to begin with, in my opinion. And I don't agree with, the commentary about her disclosing her kids' medical history. I don't agree with that, because that can't be taken down. That can be used against them. I disclose my own fucking medical history every fucking time I do. It's for a fucking reason. You may think I'm fucking crazy. You may think, oh, this bitch is just saying way too much about herself. But anytime I've ever fucking shared my medical history, it's been for a fucking reason, whether you processed it or not, whether I articulated it or not. You know what I mean? But it was my medical history to share. It's my consequence to live with. For if someone else were to be sharing my complete medical history in that way, and it's one thing when you're talking about perhaps like an injury to someone that everybody kind of knows about, like for example, if someone got punched in the face and then they have a black eye, technically that could be considered medical history because an injury is medical history. But it's like if everybody sees you walking around with fucking bruises, that's like, we're gonna have commentary like, what the fuck is that bruise? Right, for example. So to a point, sometimes I think medical history can't not be public, or you need to disclose medical history for access in society, or when it actually helps parents, like for example, sometimes you have to disclose medical history to get donations to afford your kid's surgery. I think that's important. There are spaces in which I believe it's important to advocate for your own child's parental issues, and you may have to become public with that to get help from the public. For example, getting access in the education system. But when it comes to, like, oh, we're going to just use this kid's medical history for the governor campaign, I don't agree with that. I think she could be making the same points without disclosing her own child's medical history. And you don't need to violate your kid's consent in order to do that. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just heavily disagree with this.
And I'm like, seriously? Alette. So he did not get help.
And I disagree with that too. I don't agree with silencing kids because you want to be on the fucking phone. Like, okay, let them be kids. Damn.
He was 13 years old, and he's 16 now, and he goes to therapy regularly, but it was so difficult to find a provider for him in the first place. And I think that is something that there should be incentives, to get not just doctors and psychiatrists, but nurses, CNAs, all the support staff, get them through medical school, whether that's loan forgiveness, a bonus for completing school to help them get into a job, relocation fees. Unfortunately, all that stuff would have to go through the state legislator to get the budget approved for it, to get the legislation passed for it. But if something like that came across my desk as governor, I would absolutely sign it into law.
Absolutely. Now, I'm not sure, but does Oregon have a hospital shortage or a primary care doctor kind of shortage? Maybe more in the rural areas than others?
Definitely in the rural areas. So we have Riverbend and McKenzie here in Springfield, Oregon. And then you have to go to Portland. There is a small hospital in Cottage Grove. But the main one's like the best NICU in Oregon is in Springfield. And then the Children's Hospital is up in Portland. So that's really like the two major hospitals that provide those services. And people drive for hours to get to where they need to be for these appointments. And that's, one of the reasons why there's such a long wait, these places are booking up to June and July right now, even as an established patient. So, and then you have the long wait times in the ERs. And right now there's a huge thing at Riverbend, Peace Health. They want to replace the doctors with pretty much corporate replacements that just come in. They don't know the patients. They're cheaper labor, cheaper doctors. They don't know the patients. They don't know the networks within our communities. They don't know where to refer them. They don't know, and they don't have those connections and those relationships like the doctors that have already been here that are local, that have these connections with where to refer them to, who comes in regularly, what their issues are, and what programs they should be sent to. And it's just not, we're literally fighting that right now with Peace Health to prevent them from bringing in cheaper, I forget the term they use for it, but they're like, it's not good for the doctors that are coming in.
Yeah. So the next one question has some TikTok, not so funny words. So I'm gonna use substitutes and let's just try to, yeah. So substance overdoses, unaliving have increased in Oregon over the last several years. What policies would you introduce to strengthen addiction treatment and prevention?
So Oregon briefly decriminalized substances and there was no support services in place. So as governor, I can't introduce policy. I could find a lawmaker to introduce policy to the floor, but there's no saying if they would or not. I can hand it to them. They can just leave it on their desk. However, as I stated earlier, I support the full legalization and regulation of substances, and it would help prevent pretty much everything that you just listed: the overdose, unalives, the STI and STD infection rates, the cross-contamination, the wrongdoings that happen within the underground system, you know, the smuggling and the trafficking and all that related to stuff that is not legal. If we legalize and regulated, we would get rid of that whole black market.
Okay. If there's anybody in the chat, again, who has questions, please feel free to put them in the chat or request up. So I think we're going to jump into our first rapid fire. This one's more political. So one word to describe your leadership style.
Blunt.
Okay. Biggest issue facing your state right now.
ICE.
Okay. First bill of policy you will prioritize for your state.
Housing.
Okay. Immigration, pathway to citizenship or stricter enforcement.
Pathway to citizenship for sure.
All right. And minimum wage, raise or keep?
Raise for sure.
Okay. So let's jump into my computer. Okay, there we go. Let's jump into the economy. We already talked about minimum wage. So Oregon's GDP exceeds $300 billion, but housing costs remain high. What economic strategies would you implement that would reduce housing costs?
So this is something I really hope to find a legislator to work with me on. I believe that there needs to be rent caps, and I think that corporations should not be able to buy residential properties and jack up the prices.
Is her answer to everything I'm going to find a legislator to work with me on it?
Especially, you know, somebody actually brought it to my attention, something that I used to talk about in the old campaign trail is foreign corporations as well buying these properties that don't understand the economics here, and they just jack it up for the money. So corporations in general should not be able to own residential properties, and there should be a limit on how many an individual owns, like if they're going to make a business out of it, and the rent needs to be tied to how much the mortgage is, like a certain percentage over the mortgage and the taxes.
If you don't think corporations should own residential properties, I would say that might be something valid to believe in general, but I don't know if that's going to be a good platform to run a governor campaign on, because it's just a simple fact that we live in a society where corporations own a lot of residential property for the purpose of profit, which is renting, which is real estate. So because of how the real estate market is built, that would require changing that entire industry to realistically be able to run a platform off of it for a governor campaign. I think it's one thing to speak on that as an idea you have and would like to see, versus that being an answer in response to a governor campaign question for this platform. I don't know how realistic that is. Not that it's not a good idea, but is it realistic within the ability you would have as a governor?
There's a little, so the owner who's renting it out can still make some income from it, but it's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's not something they can take advantage of. If the mortgage and taxes go down, the rent would go down. If the mortgage and taxes went up, the rent would go up. Instead of what they have now, where once a year they can raise.
And mind you guys, no real estate, no sustainable real estate business is a quick get-rich-quick scheme. Anything that like that is already a fraud or a scam in and of itself, in my opinion. Like, yes, it may seem like, oh, when you sell a bigger transaction, that could come off as a get-rich-quick scheme, but it's not, because of the valuation of what goes into those transactions and the work and pricing based on market-based, value-based, and cost-based pricing structures, you know?
Raise the rent by, I think it's 10% or 5%, regardless if the taxes or mortgage go up at all. And I think they should have to show proof that, hey, it went down like every year. Here's the mortgage and taxes for this year. This is what your rent is going to be. It should be provided every single year for tenants, so that there's a clear reasoning for how much is being paid. Because right now in Oregon, the prices are extremely expensive. You have to, people say, oh, just stop buying your coffee every day and you'll be able to afford a house. $3 a day is 300. Is it 300? No, 900 a month. How much is 300? That's not 900 a month. Oh my God. Sorry, guys. $1 a day is $90. Jeez.
90, yes.
It would be 90, right? God. I was
30 days.
I was in a vigil last night, and I was not back till after midnight, and then we got up super early to get my daughter to school. So, but so $90, and then $90 a month that you're saving up for a year, it's less than $1,200 a year, and you need $4,000 to $5,000 to move into a house. So how many years do you want these people saving up to be able to get into an apartment? If you get a 30-day notice, you don't have 4 years to save up to move into the next apartment. So it's a gross argument to use. 10 years, right? 10 years to save up to be able to move, because you need first months and deposit, and they can jack up your deposit if your credit is bad, or if you have pets that you're bringing with you, or if you've had a recent eviction, and those things should not be allowed to happen.
Absolutely. And housing is an issue everywhere. Even in my state, as somebody, I'm 29, usually by this age, people are buying their first home. And I'm looking at homes and I'm like, I don't even know how I'm going to afford to even the down payment for a first home. Would you support first home buyers programs for your state?
Absolutely. And I also think that if you're paying rent on time every month, even if it's a few days late, whatever, if you're paying rent every month, and because when you're applying for a home loan, they look at your payment history. They should look at your rental payment history. If you can pay somebody else's mortgage for 10 years, you can pay your own mortgage. They should really take that into consideration.
I agree. So small businesses represent over 99% of Oregon's businesses. What policies would you support? What policies would help them expand and hire more workers?
Access to capital, access to loans and bridge loans, grants. It is so difficult. I'm a small business owner, and they want you in operation for 2 years and some of them want you to have like thousands coming in every month. And I'm like, if I had a business and had thousands coming in every month, I wouldn't need a loan from you. It doesn't make sense to me. We're a startup business. Help us in our startup phase. Don't wait till we're established. That's not what starter loans should be for. They should help you when you're starting up. If you have a solid business.
Well, whenever people give you a loan, they need to know that you're going to be able to pay it back. And you know what I mean? There is a difference between needing a loan versus needing capital investment. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, like she never had any upfront investment, any upfront working capital to begin a business with. And you can still run a business without upfront capital, but you can't expect a loan when you have no plan for repayment. Otherwise, that is just going to put you in more debt.
Business plan, you have projections for how much you think your business is going to make, and even if you're established, you're going to get established, you should be able to have an access.
A projection of how much you think it's going to make isn't realistic. You cannot run a business on projections. Projections can help you predict what will happen and can help you make decisions about where to allocate the budget next year based on what happened this year. But you need to know and have a realistic history of what you can do so you can know what you can guarantee will get done. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. It's unrealistic to expect a loan. Is it possible to still get one? Yes, but is it? I think it's not realistic. If I said, "Hey, give me $20," and you're like, "Okay, when can you pay me back?" and I'm like, "I don't know. I might not be able to ever pay you back, but just loan me $20 and you might get it back one day." Versus if I say, "Hey, give me $20. My next paycheck's Friday. I can give it to you on this Friday. Let's make plans and go to dinner. I'll give you your $20 and buy you dinner." Which one would you be more likely to give me $20 in? You know what I mean? Like which scenario there? So, right.
That's a fun pathway to that, and it should be easier to find what grants are available. Because if you look at grants online, you can't tell what's a scam. You can't tell what's real. There's nothing that's really points you in the right direction right off the bat. It really needs a lot of clarification.
Absolutely. As a small business owner, I feel like I hear people talk a lot about red tape. Is that a thing in Oregon where it's harder to, really get through the paperwork to file a small business and get that help?
I did not hear that last bit.
Oh, sorry. No, it's the gifts. I said I hear a lot about red tape when it comes to small businesses. So in what ways could you help small businesses kind of get through that red tape, I guess, quicker, or cut down on some of the red tape so small businesses can get their businesses up and running?
I think there needs to be more education on how to file, because the state website tells you what you need to do, and you file that and you think you're good to go, but then you hear from the Department of Justice for some reason that you have to file paperwork with them as well.
How to file for what? How to file as a small business, but how is that going to get funding? You don't need to even file for some, depending on the state. I guess it might depend in Oregon. Maybe you do have to file to be a business to begin with, but depending on the state, you don't even need to file shit to run a business depending on the business. You know what I mean? And also what you need to file varies by each business. So
and it's like, why don't you file with the Department of Justice and file with the state, and then you have to file with the IRS, but they don't tell you in one spot where this is what you need to file, here's the paperwork. You have to kind of go and search for it in each individual area until you get then unless they email you and be like, "Hey, we noticed you filed with the Secretary of State, we need you to fill this."
Yeah, that's because there's not one blanket thing that can apply to every single type of business. Each business has its own needs.
Out too. So it needs to be clarified, it needs to be simplified, and I think everything should be under one umbrella rather than spread out between all these agencies. You should be able to apply and file all in the same space.
Yeah, but you also claimed you thought that filing a stalking order against someone was the same as putting an injunction on them. So what if you just don't know what the terms mean?
Absolutely. We do have a question in the chat. Someone asked, do you support tax credit for small, minority, and women-owned businesses that hire low-income people?
I do. That's why I think we should be taxing the major corporations more, so that we can actually give small businesses the tax breaks that are needed, so that they can be more successful. Because it is very expensive. You even have to pay to dissolve your business, to file the paperwork to end it. Like it's like, why? If we're ending the business, we shouldn't have to pay to end it.
Absolutely. So let's see. Some rural communities face higher unemployment than statewide average. What strategies would you support rural incomes?
So me and my team, and I've been talking a lot about this as well, just out there in the community, about expanding our railway infrastructure and improving our highways to improve the connectivity between our small towns and major cities. When I lived in Illinois, you could hop on the Metro from way out in Elburn and take it into Chicago, and then take it out to Arlington Heights, which is like a 4-hour round trip. So it's kind of a long drive or train ride. But I drive 2 hours to Portland in my car. And it was like the cost of a bus ticket, like a day pass. Was only a couple dollars more to take the Metro. So if you couple that with a transit system, like a bus system that's improved on our highways, add that to the rail lines, that needs to be made into a publicly owned entity, not privately owned. And then we could connect the small towns. We would have tourists going there, visitors. It would help small businesses that are in those locations. It would also help people who commute for work. They'd be able to go back and forth without saving money on gas. That's what a lot of people in Illinois do. That they park at the train station and then they take it into the city, and then they come out and they drive home. So bringing that connectivity between our communities, I think, would solve a lot of those problems. And yes, it would cost money to do that. But once we had income coming in from train day pass sales and more bus sales, then that would start covering that, and it could actually start helping the gap in our ODOT funding.
Okay. And somebody asks, what about a public-private partnership for your transit system?
I mean, I can see that too, because right now it's owned by Amtrak. Amtrak is a private business out here. I don't think the rail line is owned by Amtrak, but Amtrak is the public transit system, but it's privately owned. And I guess it would depend on what negotiations bring about, because that's going to be a long, complicated process to make that happen in Oregon.
Okay. So since you already kind of started, we can jump into infrastructure.
But here's the thing. Sometimes when the state or city makes contracts with these corporations, you can't negotiate that until the term is up for negotiation. So do you even know what contracts you're going to be able to negotiate or not? Like, how valid of an answer is that? I don't know. So
let's see. So you already kind of talked about the transit, but what kind of infrastructure investments would you prioritize as far as roads and highways?
Yes, highways for sure. We have a lot of truckers that come through our state, and we have a lot of mountain passes, and some of our highways are extremely unsafe, especially because of impatient drivers. So making sure that our highways are better maintained and maybe even expanded here and there to make it so there's more room, more availability, more truck stops. We definitely need truck stops, because too many truckers are pulling over on the side of the road because they're tired or they can't drive anymore because they're at their allotted time.
I think she's trying to get truckers, because she might see that truckers are a big market. I personally come from 3 generations of truckers. My dad's a trucker. Most of his siblings are a trucker. His dad was a trucker. And my dad's mom's dad was a trucker. And my dad's dad purchased his business from my dad's mom's dad, if that makes sense. So, yeah. I feel like she keeps mentioning truckers a lot. Like, truckers are in every state, so maybe because I've never been to Oregon, I'm not understanding the issues truckers may face there with lacking resources. I understand, like, for example, whenever I go to New Orleans, my number one complaint is there's nowhere to fucking use a bathroom. You have to buy something to use a bathroom anywhere, like, versus if you're in like Slidell or you're in Metairie, you can just fucking walk into any public spot like a McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, whatever, and go pee. But if you're on Canal Street, that Burger King bathroom is going to be locked. That Chick-fil-A bathroom is going to be locked. You got to go then wait in line to maybe use the bathroom if they'll let you before buying something or not. But like, it's like, so I could maybe understand if it was like that, where there's not amenities or spaces for truckers to have access to things. But every trucker I know, they have their routes, they have their stops planned. They typically know specific stops that they can go to for what resources they need. And so a lot of truckers I know, they plan in advance, and they know how to take care of themselves with those issues. But on a case-by-case, city-by-city basis, I know it can always be problematic. But I wonder if there are specific issues truckers face that I don't realize because I've never been to Oregon, or if she is using this rhetoric as a way to appeal to truckers. And will that work? I don't know. I think that depends on the realistic possibility of her actually being able to help truckers or something, I don't know.
And then they get cited, and then they lose their CDL license because they have to pay the fines, and We need more places for truckers to be able to stop, and people who are, traveling in trailers or towing trailers. There has to be more areas because rest stops are way too far and few between. And then the roads inside the cities in certain areas, especially the more poor areas, are terrible as well. And those need to be fixed. And there's some areas that need better crosswalks, flashing stop signs. Like just driving around the state, you can see where this is a crash waiting to happen, and just improving that, and lighting as well. There's so much that I could talk about on that would take forever because there's so many different aspects. And then there's cities like Portland that have a whole bunch of one-ways that make no sense. And it's kind of coming like that in Eugene as well. A lot of one-ways that could.
Okay, New Orleans has a bunch of one-ways that don't make sense because the way this city was planned, built off of the planning, is stupid. However, I don't know, like, I've seen, where people have tried to change one-way streets and then a bunch of wrecks were caused. So I don't know, like, you can Google that on TikTok. How realistic is that, to be like, okay, we're going to go change these one-way streets. I feel like that's a big feat. I don't know. Like, okay, alone, all of her ideas, if it was, like, just one of them itself, I think maybe she could get one of these things done, right? But all of the ideas she has, speaking as if she could get it all done, I think she needs to be more realistic and clarify, these are the ideas that I have for these scenarios, but what am I going to be realistically able to get done and maybe different, I think that could be up for, so that way people don't see her as someone who isn't able to follow through if she were to get elected or something.
Could easily be two ways.
Absolutely. If you want to keep going, you can. Or I can jump to the next question if you want to say more. Go ahead. Yeah, you're good.
I was going to go in, there's also green infrastructure that we could expand on because cities and towns are heat islands, which contributes to global warming. And if we had green rooftops, more solar powered, more shaded areas, more trees planted, like if you look at a Walmart parking lot, it's just barren, hot concrete. If there's a mandate that they have to plant so many trees every this many parking spots to make sure that's shaded and not a heat island effect, then I think that could help out a lot as well as overpasses over our highways for the wildlife. And yeah.
Okay. Thank you. No, you're good. Many rural communities lack high-speed broadband internet. How would your administration close this divide?
We do have internet companies starting to expand to smaller towns now. Like when I first moved to Drain, the internet sucked. And then there's this company, I forget what it's called, but it brought a fiber optic internet down there, and it was faster than in the city. So I think that's already kind of being worked on in Oregon, where they're being connected. I could be wrong. If there's anybody from small towns that don't have that connectivity, let me know. But in my experience, Wi-Fi internet has been pretty expanded on in Oregon.
Okay, well, that's good. I think it's so crazy to think in 2026 that there are still areas that need help with getting access to the internet, which is amazing to me.
Yeah.
But yeah. Again, if anybody has any questions on infrastructure, please feel free to put them in chat or request up.
Fiber internet is amazing. It's so quick.
Yes. Well, she said she got it last week. Wow, that's crazy. I want to jump into another rapid fire. This is more of a fun rapid fire. Okay, are you ready? All right.
Yeah.
So are you a morning person or a night owl?
Night owl, for sure.
Okay. Travel back in time or into the future?
Back in time.
All right. Pizza or tacos?
Authentic tacos.
Okay. Music or podcast?
Music.
Okay. And the book or the movie?
Book. Always.
Okay. All right. Let's go into some environment. You kind of started talking about that already, so that's good. Wildfires burn hundreds of thousands of acres annually. What long-term prevention strategies would you prioritize?
I'm so glad this was a conversation. In Oregon, Trump just approved over 2 million acres to be clear cut. Clear cutting, they're claiming that it helps. Clear cutting is just they cut down entire acres of forest, just cut it all down and take it all out. And they're arguing that clear cutting is a good management strategy for forests and that it will limit wildfires. And this is fundamentally false. They're within these 2 million acres. Yeah, Vesper. He did it because of Cotec. They're doing this tit for tassing right now. But old growth forests will be affected, and it's proven that old growth forests have a higher fire resistance than overcrowded logging areas. Old growth trees have a natural resistance to fire. The canopy provides a great biome, I want to say, where the undergrowth, the flora, the fauna, they all have their food, they all have their space, they all have the protection that they need for their different species for that specific area. When you clear cut it, you take away the nesting habitat, you take away their food, and then you replant like one or two of the same trees, hundreds of them, way too close together. They're too densely, they grow, that chokes out the undergrowth, and you have all this dense, dead, unalive, and dry undergrowth or remains that don't get taken care of the way they should be. And so that actually helps wildfires happen. Yeah, there's no forest floor. No, and what we need to do, I'm mixed Indigenous of Patawomecks descent, and what we need to do, we have.
Okay, first of all, she keeps saying the tribe's name wrong. She doesn't know how to say the tribe's name right. It's Patawomecks, not Patawomecks, it's Patawomecks, okay? Second of all, I wouldn't consider her mixed Indigenous. I think there's a big difference when you have a GED match confirmed, you have far distant native ancestry, but you don't know who your ancestors are, and all of your ancestors documented are European. You were raised European and your mother is European descent. That doesn't mean you're necessarily mixed indigenous. There's a difference. You could say you have mixed distant ancestry. You could say your heritage does have far distant indigenous ancestry. But there's a big difference between having distant ancestry and being mixed. I don't know, because her mother is European descent. She's white, not mixed. There's a difference between race and ethnicity. You could say, you know what I mean? And when people think of a mixed person, they're thinking of a mixed race, colloquially. And if you're just saying I'm mixed, but you're not actually racially mixed, I think that is a lie. You know what I'm saying? Because having one ancestor who may or may not be native over 10 generations ago does not mean that now you're racially mixed. And if you are just now reconnecting to your heritage because you just now found this out, that does not mean you were raised with mixed heritage. It's a new journey. So I think that's where a lot of she and I disagree on this identity issue. She thinks just that since she got her GED match done and she found out she was native and she got it confirmed by the historian in 2023 because they compared the GED match results. Even though she doesn't know her lineage, she thinks now she's mixed indigenous, even though every single ancestor she has documented is European. And she can't even say the Potomac name right. And saying you're of mixed descent does not create the distance it needs, because you can be a descendant, you can be mixed descent. That does not explain how far back it is, how close or far back. And when you're identifying as a mixed woman, in my opinion, that creates vernacular which associates a closer proximity than a far distant ancestry. And I think it needs to be clarified. I do see this as a misrepresentation, and I do see it as a lie for that reason. I think someone like my dad is mixed Patawomec descent. My dad is a mixed man. My dad is triracial. He is mixed. Not Brittany Jones. Brittany Jones is white. She's European. I'm white. There's nothing wrong with being white. I have mixed heritage in terms of my dad's ancestry, but am I a mixed racially presenting mixed woman? No, people see me as white. But do I have mixed heritage? Yes. My father is Native American, European, and African American descent, right? But it's like to say, oh, the GED match analysis is comparable to my father's experience when you're a white woman who only has European, not native ancestors documented, but you're claiming native, claiming Potomac descent, but you don't even know how to say the Potomac name right. That shows you're not connecting. You have not been doing the work to reconnect, or you would know how to say Potomac. You cannot convince me that someone saying Patawomecks is reconnecting. I don't know. Yeah, that's just me. And I don't think she should be speaking for people of mixed indigenous ancestry when she does not have that lived experience. She doesn't know what it's like to live as an indigenous person. And it pisses me off that she uses that for her governor campaign. I see it as a lie.
Have forest management systems that prevent wildfires. I don't want to get you flagged. When settlers came here, they wrote about how well maintained the forests were, how the trails were.
And mind you guys, she's mostly descendant. All of her ancestors documented are colonized or settlers. She even is documented to descend from Nathaniel Bacon himself. She does not have any Native American ancestor documented in her genealogy for her family tree. It's all European descent.
where like people have lived there and maintained it. Like it wasn't, and we maintained it. We maintained the forest. We lived in harmony.
I don't know why she's saying we. You know what I mean? The fact that you're mostly colonizer settlers and some of your colonizer ancestors raped Native Americans does not mean that you're now Native American, in my opinion.
With it, there are scientific studies that show that we are, what's it called? What's the term? When you're part of the evolution of the area, you're.
And I think that's another reason people don't like that she identifies as Native American, because the only extent to which she has any involvement in any Native identity is because she descends from colonialism. She descends from colonizers. So do I. A lot of people don't like it when I say I'm Native for that reason. And she needs to fucking accept those social issues. It's one thing to say, look, mixed natives are still valid, you know, but it's like when you don't have a connection to what it's like to be mixed, you shouldn't claim it. You know what I mean? Like, if she had a connection to being mixed, in my opinion, as she has mentioned before, she's connected to her dad's Mexican side. So why isn't she ever talking about being mixed Mexican woman? Porque ella no sé español. Es que yo creo. You know what I'm saying? Like, why doesn't she ever associate with that? She's been using this Potomac identity, but she just found out in 2021 she was Potomac. She got the lineage confirmed through GEDmatch analysis, not through genealogy, in 2023. She does not know who any of her Native ancestors are, and she claims Native ancestors, but they're not documented in her family tree. No genealogical record points to any Native ancestors of her. So for me, it's like, I don't think she can speak to this, because even if she did have that far distant ancestry, as Bill Deo has said, then to me it's like you have still been in the colonial assimilation, which is how you got disconnected. So therefore you cannot speak to the pre-colonial context, because your lineage didn't carry that. It only carried colonial assimilation, and that needs to be accounted for here. And I think that's the problem with descendiants. Descendiants don't want to recognize the colonial assimilation.
Oh, I don't know. Chat, do you know the word? Maybe somebody in the comments knows.
You're a species that's important to, not indigenous, you're part of the ecosystem. Like they're part of the ecosystem. Like just like any native species that's there helping with the maintenance. There's a specific word for it. I'll have to look it up. But there's studies for this. And so we were important parts of the ecosystem. And we should be again. We should be a key species. Yes, key species. We'll figure it out. But getting a keystone species. Thank you. So like we were just as important to the environment as the environment was to us. And having that balance come back is very important. Thank you, Vesper. Having that balance come back. Alexa answered for you. Returning the land to indigenous stewardship. And a lot of that, there's so much public land that is actually included in treaty territories. Treaty territories. So it gives the indigenous population of that area the right to harvest, hunt, gather, do things for their cultural importance. And by clear cutting, building data centers, taking away environmental protections, we're violating those treaties, which treaties are a higher law than federal law. They're up there with the Constitution. So violating those treaties, I don't think people realize how important it is to not violate those. And I think it's finally time for somebody to be in this office of like, no, we're not violating these treaties. This is their land through treaty rights. We're not going to destroy it.
Absolutely. You know, I saw on your website that you do have policies about indigenous people and land back. So if you just want to expound on those, that would be great. Since we're already kind of talking about indigenous and
right. So I've been advocating.
And again, mind you guys, it is not her place to speak on land back. She is culturally appropriating the land back movement. She's been misusing it in order to squat whenever she's been evicted. She does not have any lived experience on any issue pertaining to land back. She has no lived experience on being indigenous. The words she's articulating are from a white woman colonizing indigenous concepts. Y'all need to understand this, in my opinion. Okay? She's just colonizing, culturally appropriating, and gentrifying indigenous issues for her governor campaign. If she actually gave a fuck about land back representation, since she would give more of a fuck about defending Patawomecks when our federal recognition is in the air, over me staying silent because she doesn't want to look bad because people are invalidating the Potomac tribe because of her. She wouldn't be wanting me to not say something about the fact that people are harassing Bill Deo, Potomac tribal historian, because of her. she would be centering Indigenous voices on this issue instead of herself. She would be pointing you to Indigenous voices to go look and learn from on the Land Back Movement, MMIW. She would be bringing them on. She would be using the platform space she's been given to give them the voice instead. But instead, she tries to speak for people, for a community she's not part of, on experiences she does not have. And I believe that ties to white supremacy, because she is colonially assimilated as a white woman. She does not have Indigenous worldview or Indigenous teachings.
For MMIW, which is Missing and Unalived Indigenous Women and Children, and that started up in Canada, and it came down because we are still in an active genocide. We call it silent genocide.
Say G-side.
G-side. Okay, that's another word that I have to keep in mind. This app.
I know.
G-side. We're still in one today. So I have MMIW.
I do believe that European women, such as Brittany, who don't have Native ancestors documented, using Native identity to speak over Natives and erase Indigenous people and to misrepresent Indigenous people, because you're having people mispronounce Patawomecks. I consider that a form of Indigenous erasure. I consider Brittany Jones actively participating in Indigenous genocide against the Patawomecks tribe, against Powhatans, against all Native American communities. I consider her racist. And I've covered that before. I consider her as someone that supports and upholds white supremacy instead of fights against it, because otherwise you wouldn't be wanting to be governor. That is a white supremacist concept.
Legislation that I've been sharing to as many congressional candidates as I can, like on the federal level, to be like, make this federal law, make this federal law, make this federal law. But if you do, work with your local tribes to make sure that the wording is good, because it was me and a group of other natives that came together to write a very, very rough draft of legislation. We've never written legislation before, but it's something that can be worked with. And land back can mean different things to different tribes. And at the core root of it, my understanding is true freedom, true sovereignty, the right to clean water, the right to food, the right to housing, the right to exist is the core message that I've heard from so many different people. And that looks different to different tribes. And so it shouldn't be happening the way it is. And I honestly wish that there's so many advocates out there. I'm pro-Palestine.
I think it's extremely hypocritical to say that land back means true tribal sovereignty, but then you don't understand why it's important for people who actually have an experience, a lived experience being Native, people who are actually connected to these issues, to be the one to officially represent them. If she were saying this shit in her own space, or if this were a live stream that was not based on her being governor, I'd be like, you know what, fuck it. Everybody has the right to say whatever the fuck they want, have your opinions in your own space. I wouldn't have a reason to criticize. It's the way this shit is being used for her governor campaign that is fucked up as hell to me. And I think it shows she's not in a place of decolonizing. I think it shows she does not care about tribal sovereignty. Because if you gave a fuck about tribal sovereignty, you would not be trying to speak for Native people and Native issues as a governor. That is extremely white supremacist, in my opinion.
And there's so many advocates out there that are pushing for that, saying, free Palestine, free Palestine. And then you bring up the Indigenous issues here, that there's a G-side happening here, and they go silent. And they go away. And I'm like, stop, you guys. It's happening here. You could do something here. Stop it here. Stop turning a blind eye to it. We're right here. We're asking for your help. We're asking for you.
The concept of turning a blind eye is ableism. She's not someone who cares about anti-discrimination, so I wouldn't put that past her either. There's nothing wrong with being blind. I think you mean turning a seeing eye, because it's more of you're aware of what's happening, but you don't care to do anything about it anyway. Is that what you mean? Because if you don't know something's happening, how can you be expected to handle it? So I don't like it when people are ableist that way against blind people. And when it comes to we're asking for your help, who is we? You don't speak for, you can't say Native Americans are being genocided, we're asking for your help. You're not part of Native American community. Neither am I. We can't speak for Natives. I can tell you why I don't think Natives support you, and that is my opinion based on what I see of Native communities, but can I go speak for any Native? No, I can only speak for myself, okay? And I'm telling you, when I say my opinion on Native community, it's not to speak for Natives. It's just to say what I think based on what I see. And I think every individual has a space to do that in our own space. There's nothing wrong with that. But for you to go try to be fucking governor, and you don't even know what it means to be Powhatan, you don't even know how to say Patawomecks, you don't even know what these issues mean. It's hypocritical as fuck to me. It's hypocritical as fuck. And I don't understand why you don't think someone who's actually connected to Patawomecks issues should be the one to speak on this shit.
For you to step up, we're asking for you to stop it before it's too late, because our languages are unaliving, our communities are unaliving, they're shrinking, our treaties are being violated, our land is being stolen, our people are being unalived.
And a big reason those things are happening are because of people like Brittany Jones, who literally culturally appropriate and exploit Indigenous trauma for their own benefit and don't allow Indigenous people to represent ourselves. You know what I'm saying? She literally got $57,000 off of the Indigenous identity as a European woman, and she doesn't understand why that's wrong. But she wants to talk about tribal sovereignty. Then why didn't you donate that money to Indigenous people?
And a lot of the time the excuse is, well, I don't know how to find information. I'm like, well, how'd you find information about Palestine? How'd you find information about BLM? How'd you find information for any other cause that you do? You research. You reach out to those communities and you learn. Do the same thing for us. Like, just do the same thing for us, please.
Who is us, though? You're a European white woman. Europeans don't need help. I don't understand. Like, why she can only speak for the European people. She can't speak for anybody else. She can only speak for what it's like to be a white woman. You know what I'm saying? That's my opinion. So yeah, like, white women do not need help. She cannot speak for Native Americans.
Absolutely. Do you feel that there's not enough research with, for what's going on with the Indigenous population in America?
Absolutely. I think a lot of people don't get involved because they don't want to face possible guilt of what.
And notice, every time people ask her to speak for Indigenous people, she never corrects them, never says, hey, I'm not part of the Indigenous community. Hey, I'm not part of the Potomac tribe. Hey, she never says, hey, I have far distant ancestry. I'm not actually someone who's qualified to speak on these issues. Instead, she always answers the questions as if she has that lived experience. And she doesn't understand why that's an issue. That's where she and I do not have value alignment. It's one thing to have these opinions in your own space, on your own platform, in your own live stream with your friends. It's one thing to have these opinions. But to be having these opinions as a running for governor, and you're not even fucking Native, that bothers the fuck out of me. You know what I'm saying? It's like, let Indigenous people represent Indigenous issues. When you are lying about your connection to Indigenous community, it's problematic as hell.
What their ancestors may have done. So there's that guilt that they don't want to face, that my ancestors contributed to this, but it's a part of the process. Like,
I wonder if that's why she doesn't seem to understand that she's mostly European, and she needs to realize she's colonially assimilated as a European, but she is in denial, and because she feels ashamed of who she is, I think. And you know, it's something to work through. Anybody with mixed ancestry has to work through being ashamed of the European side of us, you know. But it's like, just because you're European and if you did have a far distant Native ancestor, you know, you can have a far distant ancestor, but that doesn't make you then all of a sudden just a Native person with Native lived experience who now you're Native and no part of you is a colonizer. No, you're still a colonizer. You're still a colonizer. I'm still a colonizer. You're still a colonizer. Admit you're a European colonially assimilated woman. It's whenever you try to other yourself from other white women as if you're not also just a white woman, that's the issue right there. When you try to speak as if you're only Native American and not European, and you are basically only European, that's the issue.
We're not sitting here saying it's your fault that this happened, but it was the European settlers that came here that did this.
And again, maybe that's why she wants to only identify as Native, because if she admitted how European she is, she would have to be like, yeah, it's my fault these social issues are here, versus when she's just saying, oh, I'm Native, it's your fault, not mine, so I can fix it. That's the issue. But her thinking, oh, she can fix it because she has some far distant Native ancestry, that I feel is a version of white-splaining, white supremacy, trying to speak over other actual Native people who have been in this lived experience. You know what I mean?
And we need to have that accountability and that very hard talk to get these issues settled, to heal that past
She
trauma.
doesn't know what the fuck accountability or hard talks are. Otherwise, she wouldn't have blocked me like a little fucking pussy-ass bitch. She can't debate me on these issues. Because if she does, she's just going to be upholding white supremacy, and that will look really bad for her. She doesn't actually have tribal connections. She literally lied about being connected to the tribe and about having tribal family members endorsing her, and then asked me to endorse her after that. Like, what, bitch? Yeah, no thanks. I'm just putting it out there, and everybody should realize anyone who is allowing Brittany Jones to come up on their space and act as if she's a Native woman. Those are people who I would look at as people that don't necessarily verify or vet the people in their space. And I would seriously reconsider what information you accept as veracity from people who promote her.
So we can all move forward, because until that happens, it's going to keep being buried and people are going to keep turning a blind eye.
Absolutely. We're going to jump back into environment. So Oregon plans to reduce greenhouse.
Her continuing to discriminate against people with disabilities shows, again, is a reflection of her character, in my opinion.
Gas emissions by 45% by 2035. How would you balance environmental goals with economic growth?
Well, consider, I don't see how they would be able to cut that down when they want to bring data centers here.
You want to go into that a little bit too? Data centers?
Data centers destroy the environment. They don't create a lot of jobs or a lot of income for the state. So I don't know what our leadership is thinking right now in trying to encourage them to come here. I don't support it. It negatively affects the tribes and the treaty rights and the other equity priority communities. And we can have sustainable economic growth by supporting our small businesses, our small towns, our pretty much grassroots businesses, our private businesses, publicly owned businesses, employee-owned businesses. We don't have to have mega corporations to have a successful economy. We don't. We just need to reinvest into that infrastructure to make it thrive. And with smaller businesses, there's less of a carbon footprint. You don't have these huge ranches, farms, things that take up all this water and create all these gases with so much waste and toxicity. You don't have that with small businesses.
Absolutely. So Oregon, you saying that they're trying to bring data centers. Does Oregon already have data centers, or they're that are already in Oregon, or they're just trying to bring in to open new data centers?
I believe we do already have data centers in Oregon. I don't remember exactly where they are off the top of my head, but they really have not benefited the communities in any way. Excuse me. So I don't know why they want to bring more when there's no benefit.
Okay. You talked about this a little bit, but Oregon is expanding their renewable energy. How would you ensure energy remains affordable for residents?
That would have to go through the state legislature, but things like EWEB and Sub, the electric companies, they are increasing their rates. Yeah, corporate greed. Thank you, Vesper. It's going on with the electric companies as well. Corporate greed. There's been a lot of talk in our communities about making these energy businesses publicly owned, because we need electricity, we need running water, especially the medically fragile and the children and the elderly. So having it publicly owned would help reduce that cost, and I can get on board with that absolutely.
How could you stop corporate greed at a state level? Just because I saw his comment, I'm like, how can we stop that at a state level?
So I have a tax bill on my website. I don't know if it's on my website, but I know I talk about it on my website about taxing corporations and breaking up monopolies. And we could do that on a state level where, say, hey, you're a corporation of this size and you want to do business here, you're paying this much taxes, you're not getting a tax break. And while giving local businesses tax breaks, and people are concerned about that will raise the prices, they'll fire employees. But you can put in the legislation that they're not allowed to fire employees, that they're not allowed to reduce wages, they're not allowed to increase costs. You would force them to take it out of their profits. You can put that in legislation. You can put those safeguards in there. And I think that would help break up these corporate monopolies and make them pay their fair share.
Absolutely. I want to remind anybody in here, if you have a question, go ahead, feel free to put it in the chat or request up. Let me see. I don't think I saw any more questions or comments. No. Okay. So I kind of want to talk about your ICE policy. I know you talked about ICE. So if you just want to go into one, currently, how do you feel about ICE? I don't know if ICE is ICE in Oregon currently? Oh, yeah. So my first question is ICE currently in Oregon right now?
Yep. They have a detention facility in Portland and one in Eugene, and they're trying to build one in Newport, I believe.
You know, I was fixing my plate, so this is a delayed response from whenever she was asking if we had a question. Yeah, I have a question. Why the fuck won't Brittany Jones be upfront about the fact that she has no lived experience as an Indigenous woman, that she only had a DNA GED match confirmed to have far distant ancestry way back, that she was not raised Native, that she was raised by a European woman? Why won't she clarify that? Because if she doesn't, I just think she's a fucking liar.
I don't know if they have one in Salem. Yeah, the Portland Frog, he's been all over TikTok. Inflatable animals have been protesting outside of the ICE facility.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a very hard-line stance that day one, I'm declaring a state of emergency. And under a state of emergency, the governor gains control over the police agencies, state and local level. With the state and local level, I could suspend, I can't fire, but I could suspend police officers that are...
Theoretically, I was like looking into the idea of could her plan work, right? And if the right person were to do it, sure. I don't think Brittany Jones is the right person to trust with the power of state of emergency. You can't even trust her to take accountability for lying about her proximity to Native community. What makes you think you're going to be able to trust her with untethered authority over the state?
Are violating sanctuary city laws and assisting ICE outside of the normal, already structured way to, hey, if somebody's arrested committing a crime, they're illegal, you have the transfer process, you get guys. If they're doing anything outside of that and violating the sanctuary city laws, they would be suspended. I have somebody in mind. I'm going to fire the police chief for the state police. I have somebody in mind, but I can't say who yet because I haven't talked to her yet. But she's phenomenal, and she would. I could just see building training my brain is not braining today. Training modules.
Okay.
For cultural competency, de-escalation tactics. We have a lot of Proud Boys and stuff like that in our police force here. I would wipe them. Nope, you're suspended indefinitely. And then at the same time, under a state of emergency, I would open up a full investigation into ICE and their conduct within the state of Oregon. And I am going to take that evidence, because there's plenty of it, and refer them for criminal charges at the state level or the federal level, whichever one. People argue that the supremacy clause protects federal agents, but once you violate your or abuse your authority or step beyond the bounds of your authority, the supremacy clause doesn't protect you anymore. And there's ample evidence that ICE agents are violating or overstepping the bounds of their authority. So they wouldn't be protected by that. They could request to go up into a federal court for a judge to hear the case in the federal court, but if they're convicted of a state level crime in federal court, because they still have to go through trial, if they're convicted, Trump would not be able to pardon them of state level crimes.
I'll stumble on the native thing. I think she should only claim what she's going to prove. If she's not going to prove her lineage, I don't think she should claim a lineage she won't prove. You know what I'm saying? If all she's going to prove is that she had a Judd match DNA analysis done and confirmed to have far distant ancestry, then that's what she needs to claim. You know what I mean? She doesn't need to keep claiming she's an Indigenous person when she does not have that lived experience. It's pissing me the fuck off. I'm pretty triggered by it again. My last stream, I was able to get calm and stay calm about it all. This stream, I'm just getting real riled up again. I don't know why, but it's like a trigger for me. I think it's because of when you actually are someone whose family really is mixed Indigenous, to see someone who does not have that lived experience try and represent it, but not only try and represent it, but misrepresent it, and watching the lies, it is a trigger. It makes it so I can't even properly articulate the problems I have, to where now I'm just this bumbling, rambling lunatic. But it's like, that's because of how triggered I am. You know what I mean? I think the reason she feels comfortable to culturally appropriate in this way is because it does not impact her. So she doesn't understand the consequences of what she's doing, because she's not actually impacted by these issues. You know what I mean? Otherwise, it's like, if you were impacted by these issues, why would you be so comfortable causing harm to the community?
So it's still a process. And the Oregon Attorney General said that he would do this last year, and he still hasn't.
We do have one question in the chat. They say, "Are you open to requiring police to have malpractice insurance? I'm tired of my taxes paying."
Do you mean kind of like the same way where priests have to have insurance for sexual abuse crimes? Like if police have insurance for their malpractice, then their insurance would pay out the victims?
Wait, priests
I don't know
have...
if anybody knew that.
No, can you... That's not relevant to this, but I'm interested. I didn't know this. Like,
there are insurance companies for churches to pay out victims, to pay victims' claims.
Wow.
Because there's so many victims from the church.
I did not know this.
I highly suggest you look into that. I was shocked when I was like, they have their own insurance payouts for this stuff? That's insane.
Yeah.
How doctors and nurses have malpractice. I mean, absolutely. Any type of accountability system, I'm all for. We need more accountability. I agree. The taxes should not be paying for their crimes. I agree.
Absolutely. If anybody else...
can't be sitting there talking about how we need more accountability, yet you block people who would Patawomecks descent for calling you out for lying about being Patawomecks, for lying about being connected to Patawomecks, because you can't claim you're connected to your Indigenous heritage and ancestry and roots as a child when you were not connected to Patawomecks as a child. That's a fucking lie. And you can't say, oh, there's a difference because I was referring to those West Coast natives, not y'all. Knowing West Coast natives does not give you an Indigenous lived experience, which is therefore still a fucking lie, bitch. Like, so the fact she does not take accountability, the fact she blocked me, is crazy for me, where she keeps running her platform off of accountability, but she takes none. She never gave back the donations for her presidency campaign. She said she was going to raffle off a car. She never gave away the fucking car and took thousands of dollars from people. It's a scam by definition. I do believe she's comfortable committing fraud. I've said, I don't understand why she feels comfortable fucking people over this way, but it's never something I could stand behind. And the fact that she's like, oh, accountability, bitch, where? Be accountable one day so we can report on how you're growing, because right now you're a piece of shit, in my opinion.
Else has any more questions in the chat or would like to request up, feel free to request up. Neither one of us bite, it's very nice up here. We've talked, if you have any questions about any of the topics we talked about or another topic regarding Oregon, feel free to request up. Before we get into our closing, I just wanted to know if there was any topic or policy that we haven't covered that you really wanted to talk about and get the word out during this town hall.
So there's two of them, three. Two of them can go together though. So one, I have a housing plan. That is a path to home ownership. It's not a never-ending state rental. It focuses on getting the condemned and abandoned homes, fixing them up, and then getting people literally off the street. It's a housing first approach, off the street and into the homes. We can figure out how much they can pay, what services they need, and how we can help them. And then that would help the housing issue. It would help clean up neighborhoods. It would help the substance abuse issues, and it would help clean up the streets. I'm not talking about cleaning people off the streets. I'm cleaning literal garbage is on our streets because there's no services. And so that's my housing plan. And if the state legislature won't fund it, I will fund it with my own salary. And then another one is in Oregon, there's no way for a tribe to get state recognition. We only have federally recognized tribes here. Excuse me. And so the governor can create a pathway to state recognition so that we have descendancy groups here in Oregon that have been here since before colonization and also part of the relocated groups. There were tribes in Oregon that had federal recognition, and then the United States government stripped it away outside of these descendancy groups. So we have different tribal politics going on here. And there's sacred sites, there's some ceremonial sites, cultural sites that are not protected because there's no pathway to state recognition. So that is one thing I would create as governor, just pretty much almost immediately I'd start creating that. And then we would have, when I was in Oklahoma, when you're driving, there's signs along public roads saying you're entering this treaty territory, you're entering this reservation. We don't have that here. We have some signs saying, no, you're entering this reservation or you're leaving this reservation, but there's no treaty territory signs. There's nothing like that. And so I would want to implement that on our public roads so people have that, oh, we're on Indigenous land. We're on like the constant reminder. This is Indigenous land. We're here. These are our treaty lands. So those are two things that I really wanted to talk about.
Reminder of you're on Indigenous land. Land recognition without land rights is just performance. It's not anything helpful. I do not believe in land recognition without return of tribal sovereignty. That's just fucking performative activism and fucking bullshit. It doesn't fucking do anything.
Thank you. Looks like we do have some questions in chat. Someone asked, do you have any plans to support small farmers and homesteaders?
Yes, that goes in line with my going against corporations, mega corporations. I do have a bill on private land. You should be able to buy, not like land that you have business on, but your private residence, your private land. You should be able to live on that land how you want, as long as you keep it clean and organized. You should be able to build what you want without expensive permits. As long as you get it inspected and it meets code for safety reasons, that should be all you need. You should be able to live on a trailer. You should be able to live in a tent. It's your land. You shouldn't be so regulated. There's homeless people here that bought land, thinking they could live on it in a trailer. And then they bought a trailer, and then they're like, no, you can't live on the land. So now they move around on the streets. And they park at campgrounds instead.
Interesting. Someone asked, how would you feel about partnering with Washington and California and bringing a veterans care package?
What would that look like? What do you mean by that?
The people, if you want to expand on that. While they do that, someone did ask, do you have a plan to address housing costs? We did talk about that, but if you want to just give a quick synopsis again for the new people in the chat.
Yeah, I support rental caps and making sure it's tied to the actual mortgage and insurance rates. Oh, yes, Sassy Sarah.
Oh, they put him in.
Oh, sorry. That's my husband.
Oh, sorry. I muted her. I'm going to let you finish your answer, and then we'll jump to the people for her question.
I can go ahead and answer that one because the IP28, we can talk about that next.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The people, welcome to the panel. If you want to unmute yourself, I did unmute you. Mute you.
That's okay. I totally understand. My bad. I'm so sorry.
That's fine. If you just wanted to go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, my question was the veterans package, and what I mean by that is that Trump is taking away benefits from veterans. We also saw that he disconnected himself from the WHO, in which California, Oregon, and Washington decided, you know what, we're going to hook up and we're going to act as the WHO for the United States. Could you do something similar to that for veterans, in that instead of having all these benefits taken away, start providing full medical benefits, full housing, retirement benefits, and cut out the red tape? Give them what they deserve. They need housing after they come out. They need financial stability after they come out. They need medical care. And they decided to put their lives on the line for...
I'm sure she's going to support the theoretical version of this, but the realistic application of execution is something I don't know if she can follow through on realistically.
For this country. So my question is, would you be willing to make like a West Coast pact to support our veterans that at least live in our state 100%, instead of giving them this wishy-washy BS?
Absolutely. I served for 8 years in the Army. I'm a veteran. And yes. So Trump did cut veterans care. He says, if your medication is working, we're going to cut the income we are providing you. So a lot of veterans are saying, fine, I guess I'm going to stop taking my meds now. And it's going to be a huge issue. Like we already have 22 a day, which is veterans unaliving themselves. That's going to skyrocket with people not taking their medication. And I was homeless and I could not get assistance because I didn't serve at least one day in a combat zone. Every single program I went to, and I had kids, I was in a tent with kids. Every single program I went to had that requirement, whether it was a VA or a private nonprofit. They all had the requirement that you had to serve at least one day in a combat zone. It doesn't matter that I got an honorable discharge. It doesn't matter that I served my contract. It doesn't matter that my body's broken, because your body still does get broken even if you don't deploy. There's a lot of gaps and issues that need to be fixed, and I'd be more than willing to work with California and Washington on that. I've actually been talking to my team about talking to them anyways for everything going on in Kansas. It's pretty much illegal to be transgender right now. So I want to make the West Coast a refuge in general, and that would require, hi Kai, that would require, help from Washington and California, because if people come to Oregon, they can go through there to get to Canada or to Mexico, because there's going to be refugees, there's going to be people leaving. And I think making the West Coast a safe haven for people like that, and enforcing our veterans. I could absolutely see working with them for something like that.
So thank you so much for your answer, and I appreciate you bringing me up. And have a great day, and I'm looking forward to seeing more from you.
Thank you, the people. I think I saw something else in the chat about.
I thought I did too.
I know it moves so fast, and you have to scroll back up. Sarah, Sarah, she said, tell us what you think about IP20, the Peace Act, the ban on hunting, fishing, etc.
IP28. PETA is trying to push that in Oregon. They almost have enough signatures to get on the ballot.
Can you explain what that is?
It pretty much makes harming any living being illegal. No, you can't even use pest control on bugs. You can't. Yeah, there'd be no more slaughtering, no more ranches, no more farms. No, you can't even harvest your own chicken for a chicken dinner. They take all of it away. There's no.
Yeah, the abortion crowd is gonna go wild with that one.
Hunting, no fishing, just straight up, no more animals are being killed or harmed in Oregon whatsoever. And castration, there's so much. It's not just. I'm gonna censor myself for TikTok. It's such an asinine bill that I'm telling everybody, whether you are Democrat, Republican, Independent, it doesn't matter. Vote no. This will violate treaties. Again, Indigenous people are always affected by these decisions because we have treaty rights to hunt and fish and gather. We have, you know how bad the termite.
She cannot say Indigenous people and then we. She's not part of Indigenous people, in my opinion. I cannot say Indigenous people and we and sit there and expect all Indigenous people to identify with me. I can talk about the Indigenous we of my own family, but not the Indigenous we as a governor of a state on an official capacity. There's a big difference between talking about your perception on your own platform, which would not necessarily cause harm because it wouldn't necessarily impact anybody else, and the people didn't like you, they didn't have to listen to you, versus when you're trying to represent a community you're not a part of. You don't have lived experience as an Indigenous person. Just admit that you're just now trying to get into the community. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be a part of the community and having far distant ancestry, but recognizing how connected you are to the community and not misrepresenting that is an issue here that I don't think she realizes. She keeps, in my opinion, associating proximity to other natives that's not part of her actual ancestral community to say that makes her have a lived experience, but it does not. And I just...
Problem we get in Oregon, we're surrounded by forests. We have to be able to have pest control. Rats, mice, the spread of diseases through animals, so many things. PETA is overstepping, and all this is going to help do is line the pockets of major corporations who are going to ship even more meat into Oregon because we can't grow it ourselves.
Yeah.
And for her to literally tell me that she never was trying to say, act like she was Indigenous or more Indigenous than she is, in those messages, but look at all the fucking interviews she gives. I'm like, bitch, do you not fucking see yourself? Do you need a fucking mirror? Cause what the hell?
I've never heard of it. It's interesting. So this is something currently they're trying to do.
Yep. Okay. They're currently trying to get this on the ballot. A lot of people are mad, but the way they're phrasing it is they're saying it would just make sure that wild animals have the same protections as domestic pets. That's what they're saying.
Okay. I'm going to start going into our closing questions, but again, if you have any questions, feel free to request up or keep putting them in the chat. I'm loving the engagement in the chat. I think people are also upset about this IP28 as much as you are. So that is good.
I started hunting when I was 8 years old. My dad started taking me in the woods when I was 8, and I was just
I'm trying to think how that would affect people in Oregon, because I'm sure you have a lot of farmers and people who hunt and do those kind of things. So I feel like that can affect people's way of life, right? So now you're affecting people's economy and their money, how they eat, how they feed their family. So I feel like that's going to cause a way bigger issue than maybe people are thinking. So.
And another thing, I don't know the implication of this act to know how it would or would not impact Indigenous treaties. But I'm wondering if she knows either. Can she even accurately speak to that? Because what if there's a possibility that this shit, whether or not you agree with it, ain't got nothing to do with Indigenous treaties because it wouldn't impact what Indigenous people can or can't do on their own fucking land. You know what I mean? I don't know. What's in that bill that is negating Indigenous rights in their treaties? Without explaining that, I don't understand why that's being fucking mentioned, because for me, without explaining, it just comes off as like a name drop to use it for proximity instead of explaining the relationship there.
I'm gonna go with go ahead. Sorry, that's from Project Animal Welfare. They have information about it right there on that one.
Okay.
So that profile.
Oh, Project Animal Welfare in the chat. Okay. Okay. They have a huge Discord serves for raising rabbits. Ooh, we have an OVC member who has all these animals, rabbits, chinchillas, and all types of stuff. So let's go into our closing questions before we get out of here. Why should Oregon voters trust you to lead the state right now?
That's such a hard question to answer because every single politician says, trust me, bro. I'm one of you. I am a poverty level working class citizen that is just as fed up with the BS as anybody else here, regardless of party. We are tired. We are tired of having to choose between paying our electric or paying our rent, between paying our gas or putting dinner on the table. We are tired of being one paycheck away from being homeless, not being able to afford daycare, not being able to afford the basic necessities. We can't live life because we're so busy working to pay bills, and it shouldn't be like that. I'm this game that these politicians are playing. I'm ready to flip the table and just break the game. So if you're ready for somebody to go in there and cause some good chaos, like, it's going to be rough in the start. I'm not going to lie to you, because change is, but we got to clean the slate. We got to break the game. So if that's what you want, get me in there, and I will hit a hard reset, at least in Oregon.
Absolutely. And then what will be your 3 priorities you will focus on in your first year?
What the fuck do you think you're gonna change so quickly? Like, I don't understand this. It comes off as white saviorism to me, because when you're a white woman thinking that only you can save everybody, that is literally white saviorism. Like, yeah.
As governor.
So a lot of what we talk about, the treaty rights, Indigenous communities, restoring sovereignty and freedom, at least at the state level, that I can hear.
Every time she mentions Indigenous people, I just get pissed off. Why are you always trying to fucking use Indigenous people in your goddamn governor campaign? Stop that shit. That's why people don't fucking like you, bitch.
Oregon, the environment, the housing issues. So the environment, for me, the environment and treaty rights go hand in hand. That's one topic for me. And then the housing crisis, my plan for that, I'm going to start implementing it as soon as possible. And then the infrastructure, connecting the small towns to the big cities through the railway and improving the highways. So those are going to be my 3 bigs in my first term. We'll see if I get a second term or if I go for president. We'll see.
Ooh, president, a woman president. I'll be excited to see that. All right. So, Brittany Jones, that is all the questions I have for you. I want to thank you for joining us tonight. This has been a great town hall. I hope the people in the chat have learned something new about your campaign and why you're running for governor of Oregon, and hopefully learned something about your policies. So before we really wrap it up, I just want to get your final word, and what is your final message towards voters as we head towards Election Day?
I want to remind people not to just go with what the media tells you. Don't just blindly follow the propaganda. Look up the candidates on your state website. Go to their website.
She really does not like blind people. Okay, she needs to work. I'm gonna remember to link in the video, the description, crash course on ableist language. It was written mostly from a deaf perspective, but it can apply to blind concepts as well. You need to stop discriminating against marginalized communities. She's extremely ableist. Extremely fucking ableist. I'm tired of seeing her discrimination. That's the colonial assimilation. That's the white supremacy. That's another evidence that she is raised in white assimilation, not Indigenous ways, in my opinion. Because Indigenous people don't degrade others for disabilities the way she does.
Website, read about them, go to their social media, ask them questions directly, go to their town halls. Don't just say, oh, they must not have a lot of money, they're not viable. They're viable if you vote for them. If you want that candidate, you vote for that candidate. If you vote for somebody you don't want, that is when you waste your vote. That is voter suppression. Vote for who you want, research the candidates in depth, and go with your gut, not with where the money is.
Absolutely. Again, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. Do you want to plug any of your social medias, how people can stay in contact with you, your websites, how people can follow you along your journey as you run for governor of Oregon?
Yes. My profile on here, excuse me, I'm drinking soda. I should not do that in interviews. My profile right here in the bio, there's a link tree, and it has my Facebook, my Instagram. I think it has my Blue Sky. It has my website. We are hitting the road in April full time. We're literally going to be in cars and campsites and hotels until we can get a trailer. And we're just getting out there and meeting you face to face. I have an app that I downloaded I'm part of Citizens Impeachment, Courage Candidate Coalition. We are pro-impeachment.
If you can hit the road full time for your own political benefit, but you cannot make it to Virginia once, but you want to use Native identity to profit, that to me shows it's a performance. It's not about reconnection, because you could go to fucking Virginia if you wanted to. You would rather do this instead. That's shame. You would literally rather run for governor as which is a white supremacist construct. You would rather engage in white supremacy than go connect with your own fucking people. It's sad to see.
We want to have accountability for Trump and everybody.
Or the people you claim, rather.
Else that is violating their oaths of office, and we're not beholden to corporate donors, and we don't accept money from APAC. But one of the candidates developed an app called Polis, P-O-L-I-S, and you can see where your candidate is. And I just talked to him the other day. He's putting in new updates into it, where it's going to be an active tracking system. So if I put in an event in the app, it's going to show up on the map, and it's going to show the route that I plan to take. So if you live in one of those small towns along that route, you'd be like, hey, you're coming through here, I'd love to meet up with you. And then we could be like, hey, let's meet for coffee. It's going to be interactive, it's going to be great. I think that app is going to really help the connectivity between candidates and constituents. But we also need donations. We're grassroots, so my donate link is in my bio. That way we can actually have funding to have gas and food and travel. We're not rich, we're poor.
Absolutely. Before we go, again, I want to invite you and the audience to join us for our next town hall, which we have tonight,
So utilizing Indigenous identity and then asking for donations while you are misrepresenting your proximity to Indigenous community is literally Native identity fraud. It's literally fraud. It's a scam. It's exploitation. I heavily disagree with it on all facets. Having distant far ancestry from a tribe is not the same as having lived Indigenous perspective, raised being in the community. And I'm going to stand on that. And yeah, I think there's a lot of nuances to the semantics, and to a certain level, I do think that I am picking at the semantics because of it does matter. Word choice matters when it comes to identity because word choice is how our identity is erased. So therefore, it matters in the identification to confirm what the relationships are in the proximity and the community. And whenever you are leading people to believe, in my opinion, that you have more of a Native experience than you actually have, I perceive that as a blatant lie. I'm going to just finish it from there. We're just concluding now at this point. Like, I perceive that as blatant lies. So today, what we did was we have looked at Hannah's shooting bear because Brittany Jones claims that Hannah's shooting bear is who taught her how to be this way and taught her how to say all of these things. So I had a message for Hannah's shooting bear, and I said that at the beginning of this video. After that, we looked at some of the statements where Brittany Jones has flip-flopped on being a Democrat versus being unaffiliated. And then after that, we finished the rest of this video with a reaction to her town hall live stream she did. And yeah, in that video, I just basically got real triggered, a bit more triggered than I thought I'd get, basically because I just feel like at this point, it's like a blatant misrepresentation to me. Watching her make those statements over and over again in context of the voice messages she left me is also extremely triggering. And it's extremely triggering for me to see somebody who doesn't have any Native American ancestors documented claiming the tribal identity based off of a Jed match, claiming that they have all of these relationships with the community. However, what they're really doing is using knowing natives on the West Coast to act as if that makes them connected to their own culture or something like that, but it doesn't. So I have a lot of problems with Brittany Jones. I feel like because I'm so angry, a lot of what I say could be on face value, maybe problematic. I don't know. Because it's not that I'm over here like, oh, one of us is more Native than the other and that's how it has to be. No, I don't think that. I don't think I am, there's, you know, when it comes to any person, I don't think it's like that. I think the issue here is the discrepancies between the statements. And I think if you're honest and upfront about who you are, that's the realest Native you can be. There's no need to create false proximity between knowing other natives on the West Coast and your own Native journey and identity. You know, I just think the realest you can be is being honest. And whenever you are trying to answer questions from an Indigenous perspective without clarifying the distance of your ancestry for national news media outlets and for blogs and for podcasts, from the stance of a governor campaign, not just your own personal reflections of life with a friend in your own space, but for the purpose of officially representing these communities in political positions, it really needs to be reflected on how you utilize identity. It really does matter, in my opinion. And that is why I do perceive a lot of what she has said as lies and evidence of fraudulent behavior, in my opinion. But yeah. Alright, thank you for joining me today. I appreciate all of you guys. I'm going to wrap this bitch up because I feel like I'm triggered and I'm not even, because I'm so triggered, I don't feel like I'm able to be productive. At this point, I'm just spiraling. So we're going to end this spiral here. I'm going to go finish eating my dinner. I got a little cheesy chicken broccoli rice casserole. I left it in the oven a little too long, so it's a little crispy. Don't look at it. You know what? I kind of like it crispy on the edges, so I don't mind. It came out pretty good. I over-seasoned it just a little bit with the garlic powder, but life is hard. Alright, I appreciate you guys. I hope y'all have a great day. Thank you for watching, and yeah, bye. Thanks for watching. Join the loyalty program at noladeathchild.com/loyalty and check in during live streams to get points for rewards.